Hey, thanks for joining me for another edition of Tea with Tasha. Thank you for your support. Thank you for sharing, liking, all that good stuff. I'm very grateful. So I want to get into another, just the toxic emasculation. I want to get into some of the female behaviors, and then I'll get into some of the male behaviors. The toxic emasculation is when a woman inherently does not trust men. And so like when people don't trust, then the only other way is control. If I can control him, then I can trust him. If I can control what he does and how he does it, then I can trust him. And at the end of the day, control is not love either. Controlling someone because your lack of trust is not going to give you the trust that you need. If you have issues with trust in men, I would say probably get some counseling and ask God to heal your heart and just kind of move forward from it, because if you have experienced bad behavior from men in your past, that is not all men. And if you want to attract a good and a healthy love, you will have to get past that negative experience, whatever it was that caused you not to trust men, whether it be an abusive in your childhood or abusive in your adulthood. There are trustworthy men out here, and we want to attract that in our lives. But if we don't trust men, then we're gonna lead with that kind of center. So you don't want to lead with that. That's why you should probably date and just interact. Because if you once you start dating and you date a good man, he may not be the man for you, but it'll reinforce your confidence in men. you know, I could be out. I remember I was out, and just randomly I needed help getting something in the car. And a young, man came and helped, black man. And I was just like so encouraged. And I said, that is encouraging when you have positive interactions with men, because all men are not bad. Most of them are not. They are just a group and they have their own issues and baggage, but let them go and heal that. Don't be somebody's punching bag, and don't be somebody's place where they, dump their negative emotions. Don't let people who rob you of your peace, because that's the only way. It's like parasites. They only know how to suck blood out of people. They don't know how to give because they haven't developed their own sense of happiness or sense of self. So if you find someone that is an emotional kind of vampire, seems to kind of want to suck the blood out of you, your energy, then just disengage, because that is more where they came from. And you certainly don't want that in your life. The toxic emasculation is control, independent, often reminding your partner that you got the control, or reminding, or you can just get out, and that kind, or I could just leave. Like, never put your relationship in jeopardy. Never put it on the table, because what if one day that person says okay and just leaves, and then what you gonna do? Like, that is such a toxic thing to do, to leverage someone with leaving, or leverage someone with they don't have to be there. Like, I call it, you backdooring the end. Divorce and all of that, that's a very serious conversation, and we should never leverage people with that. Divorce, so you don't have to be here, or you know I could just leave, because that's the easy way out. And that should never be an option, because what you've done is you've kind of short circuited the whole relationship. Now you throwing it all into the fray because you didn't get your way, or because things aren't going the way you want them to go. And that's a very toxic place to be. It's not fair to do those kinds of things. Some toxic emasculation is refusing to submit, like a woman would be refusing to submit to a man's leadership. And sometimes women don't want to submit because they don't trust your leadership. They don't trust the leadership of a man because they haven't seen it before. And so I would say with that, be patient with one another. But if you want a husband, men are built to lead and they're going to want to lead. But good ones listen to their wives. So they won't necessarily be leading by themselves. They'll be leading with support, leading with the support of a good woman that is researching and trying to figure out the best way to move forward and throwing ideas out there like, just because he is the lead of it doesn't mean that he's the brains of it all. Sometimes, a lot of times, men need help. They need a good woman behind them, supporting them and encouraging them and researching things and saying, hey, well, babe, maybe we can do this and maybe we can get into that. And, kind of throwing ideas off of one another. And that's the partnership that you're looking for. Um, like I say, I'll go back to never tell a man that he is sugar, honey, iced tea. And never, 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 never do that. Please, just never do that because that's the worst thing that you can do in a male female relationship. Because if you do that, he is likely never going to trust you with his heart. He's just never going to trust you with his heart. He's almost going to shut down and kind of secretly be looking for a way to get out. He may stay because he's comfortable. He may stay because he really cares about you. He loves you. But that level of tearing a man down, it's only so much he can take. And a lot of times that's going to lead to him having an affair because men need to be respected. So if he's not just like a whorish man, then sometimes a man will fall into that because someone else showed him some attention, somebody else showed him some affection. So, like I say, don't let your man go outside with his cup empty. Don't let him go outside already feeling beat down because you beating him down at home. You got to learn to deliver things in a way that's healthy for you both because you wouldn't want him getting in your face telling you what you are and what you're not. And just because, women have words, and a lot of times we have words over men. We have a lot of words and we can use them to our good. We can use them for bad, but we have words and they have action. But if you put them together, it's awesome. But if you use them against each other, because your words will be you not SHIT or you not this and the third, and his action will be to leave. His action will be not to come home. His action will be to disengage. His action will be to be me. So women, we got the words. We just have to use them in a positive way so that his action can be better. If we use our words and our posture in a positive way, he will have to really autocorrect. Because for one, they can't argue by themselves. If he's in a heated place, somebody has to be the voice of reason. And you don't necessarily have to be the bigger person, but be the voice of reason. Somebody has to relax. If one person is out of control with their emotions, the other person should try to relax and try to bring the other person back down because if we both get out of control, I typically don't say things I don't mean. That's just who I am, but some people do. And so sometimes you can't take those things back once you've said them. And it's a destructive thing because, again, do not tear down your own tree. Don't say things that you don't mean, and don't say things for a temporary win because nobody wins when the family feuds. So don't say mean things in a moment of anger. If you know your blood pressure, you know your anger level. If it starts to get to a point, say, okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Let me take a moment. Let me process this. Because men will think about words that you've said and they will think about them and it will ring in his ears forever. He will not be able to unhear it. He will not be able to not think that every time you look at him, he'll think that's what you think of me. Because he needs to be respected. So if you've torn him down and disrespected him, it's going to be hard for him to open up to you and give you your heart and to trust that you're going to be, be safe with it. And you're not going to, as soon as you get some information about him, use it in an argument. That's some evil stuff. I mean, really. And just know that, like I say, telling him that he ain't nothing is the most destructive behavior. And know that he is under attack all day. Like I say, black men are perceived as a threat, just in general. They're perceived as a threat. And you don't want for him to be dealt with in a threatening way when he gets home because he's already perceived as a threat. And he should just never be perceived as that same threat when he's at home. Black men are almost in a way conditioned for that behavior. So when they're young, they're tolerated. But as soon as they hit school age, then they trying to put them on medication because he's too hyper, he's too this, and they don't understand him, and he's this and that, and they start to target him a little bit. You know, the other boys may get away with it, but he won't. He'll be singled out for his behavior. They could have all done something bad together, but he'll be singled out. And then the bigger they get, the taller, the more masculine, when their shoulders get broad and they start to stand up and their voices deepen, the threat is coming. The world is waiting for them to get into some trouble. They want to clip their wings young. They would rather incarcerate them. They would rather them be on drugs. They would rather them be out here having a bunch of babies, because if they out here having a bunch of babies, they're just creating multiple family after family after family and broken family after family after family. Then they can't work because they don't want to pay the child support because they finna take half their check. Like, they want them in that situation, in that system, because it is beneficial. The jail system, I'm sorry, I have to turn my page. They make money off that. And, I would tell my son, they're waiting for you. They're waiting for you. And if you don't make a change, they're going to get you, because the trap is already laid. The trap is laid. The trap is laid for you to not graduate. The trap is laid for you to get out here and not get an education or a trade or something. The trap is laid for you to get out here smoking and drinking, and now you got a baby and your whole life is on a different track. The track is laid. And so you want to go a different route. Sometimes, black men are even perceived as just being reckless animals, savages. And then they always splash on the news how some, young black men, they doing, it's a group of them. It's a small percentage, but there's some out there they robbing and they doing all kind of stuff. And they perpetuate that narrative. Rarely do you see them do that to white men. They don't put them out there showing the things that they do. Rarely do they do that because they're going to protect them. So I think that, man, we need to encourage our young black men to stay on track, because like I say, the world is they're waiting for you. They want you to get into some crime. They want you to get into some sex with a bunch of different women, and then you're creating multiple families. You're creating the distrust because you sold her a dream, and now you can't pay your part on it, and she got to do this by herself, and it's just a cycle that goes on and on and on. But one thing I do know is the system is ready and waiting to clip your wings. They're just waiting to clip your wings. They need to get you on something. That was the one thing that when President Barack Obama, how they couldn't get him on that, and that's just those few things. Not out here having sex with everybody, not out here drug addicted, and not trying to get into some crime. The quick way to get whatever you trying to get. Like, that changes your life. As a young man or an older man, if you stop randomly sharing your life and your body with women and standing up and choosing somebody from a healthy place, it'll change your life. Only young black men are taught to chase, cookie all over the place. When these other cultures are partnering and building families and home, meanwhile, the young black man is taught to pimp every, woman he can and get as much as you can, and marriage is a shackle, and marriage is a wealth builder. Married men live longer, are healthier, happier, but that's not the narrative in our community, and we need to change that. When my son was young, I would always frame his behavior with, that's how you gonna treat your wife? You not gonna do this for your wife? You gonna have her taking out the garbage and she pregnant? And he would be like looking at me like, Mom, I'm 10. I'm 8 years old. I didn't care. because I wanted to frame his mind to be a husband. I wanted to frame his mind as this is how you should behave. Not, like my son is very attractive. So people would always say, "Oh, he gonna be a heartbreaker," and oh, he was like 2 years old. People would be saying this, and I would have to correct him. No, he's not. No, he is not. He is gonna be a faithful man to one woman. Period. Just because he's an attractive person or kid doesn't mean he have to be out here get no. And when my children were little, if people spoke negative things over them, I checked them, say no, that is not gonna happen. No, that is not that path because I am very protective over what you say over my children. I'm very protective over what conversation you gonna have. You're just not gonna say anything about them. You're not gonna say that he's gonna be a heartbreaker. Why would we say that? Like, be choosy about our words. No, he's gonna be a faithful man of one woman because that's how we raising him. That's what we're teaching him. You know, the world is already. Hey, they laid a trap. They ready. They ready. They're ready for that, and that's not where we want our young black men to go. If you don't get yourself together and get right, you're gonna be 40 and 50 before you finally figure it out and finally put two and two together. Let's not fail in our youth. Let's not fail our young black men. Teach them to be faithful and to one. Because we don't want families, I certainly don't want to chase my grandbabies around. I certainly do not want. And I told my son that. I said, hey, I don't want my grandbabies to be all over the states. I do not want to have to fight some girl because she mad at you to see my grandchild. Create a family and a home and not a baby. Create a family and a home, not just a baby, because I don't want that for myself. And I told him, I said, hey, you were raised well. You had your parents. Give that, make sure that you put yourself in a position that you can give that to your seed too. Don't get caught up in what looks trendy. Don't get caught up with the music. Don't get caught up with what the lyrics are saying because that's rap fiction. That's not reality. Reality is building families and building homes and building communities so that we can move forward and leave a legacy for our children. That's what the reality is, not, flashing and all this foolishness. A lot of our young people are caught up in trying to dress all flashy and not saving no money and not doing right. And it's like, no, time out for that. Time out for that. It's time to do right by ourselves and our children and our families. It's time to do right by them. I then went on and on. Man, I'm just so passionate about this. I really am because I'm so passionate about our families being whole because I want that for all of us. I want that for our children, and we have to turn the tide and say, you know what? Let's make a difference. Mentor somebody, as especially as older black men. Mentor some of these young black men. Tell them the right thing to go. They'll believe you. They'll listen because they're needing it. These kids out here have a hard time. It's a lot on them, and they're waiting for somebody to step up and give them some information and give them some guidance and respect their choices and look at them and give them something that they can work with. You know, let's take back our youth. Let's not let them have the streets have them, drugs have them, sex have them. Let's talk to them. Talk to your kids, and if that's one thing I could tell people, if you're gonna have kids, if you're younger, model well because they're gonna do what they see you do. But talk to them as young as possibly can about sex and about different things so that when they do get to that age, when it comes up, they already know. My mother told me everything that I needed to know. Everything, everything. My mother was very explicit in a conversation, told me everything I needed to know. So when I did start dating and boys started trying to get in my ear, and I thought my mother was a genius. I said, oh my gosh, everything she said he would say, he did. So I was well equipped. You couldn't just say whatever to me because my mother had already told me the game. She had already told me what it was. So I was able to make a better informed choice because I wasn't just so naive that my mother had not educated me. Educate your girls, educate your young men. We educated our children, especially my son. I said, hey, you're an attractive young man. This is what's going to happen. And he stayed out of trouble. because we educated him. Let your kids know the game has not changed, just the players. Maybe the scenery, but the game has not changed. Educate your children on what it is, the realities of what it is. And they may not listen or they may not look like they're listening, but they are. And keep saying it and keep saying it. Never give up. Keep saying it. And one day you're going to see the product of your words, what you've been saying. Don't give up on your children. Do not, because they need you and they need you to try to guide them. Like I say, they may act like they're not listening, but they are. You are their biggest influence, period. Parents are their children's biggest influence, not the media, not TikTok, not any of those things. The parents are the biggest influence on their children. Use it wisely. Use it wisely. I hope you have enjoyed this tea with Tasha. I certainly have. I'm so passionate about building black families. Man, I'm so passionate. Like, share, man, get the word out. Until we meet again.